Hey everyone, this is Miss Marian. We're going to be talking about squares and cubes and commutations with them, so equations with them. Make sure you have a note page because you'll need to fill it out and it will make a lot more sense. And we'll go ahead and go through this. All right, so here is the top of our note page. We're talking about perfect cubes and perfect square cube roots. So yesterday we were talking about cubes and cube roots, so we're going to talk about them again. And so we're trying to figure out what's going on with that. So let's go ahead and let's start filling this in. So we want 1 cubed. And we actually did this in our workbook. But we're going to do it again. So 1 cubed is 1 times 1 times 1, which is 1, right? And now we want 2 cubed. That is 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. And then 3 cubed, 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. And remember, we can put it in our calculator as 2 caret top 3, and then we get 8 as our answer, right? 4 cubed is 64. 5 cubed is 125. 6 cubed is 213. 7 cubed is 7 times 7 times 10, 7, which is 343. 8 cubed, which is 512. 9 cubed, which is 729. And 10 cubed is 1,000. Right? So we did this yesterday in our workbook. We're doing it again. So cubing a number. So again, cubing a number is a number multiplied by itself 3 times. Raising it to a power of 3. And then the volume of a cube, we talked about this yesterday also, is the side length cubed. Okay, so notice how I have the side length is 3. Notice how I have a 3 by 3 by 3 cubed. And when you cube a whole number, it will literally create a perfect cubed. That's what these are called, perfect cubed. Meaning I can take the cubed root of it and get a whole number back. So a volume is the side length cubed. So it is our length multiplied by our width multiplied by our height. And remember, a cube, all the side lengths are the same. So it's going to be s times s times s, which is s cubed. And then if we were doing this cube up here, we would do 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27 units cubed. Volume is always cubed. Okay, now let's talk about that cubed root that we did before. The inverse or opposite. Okay, so a cubed root is the inverse or opposite of cubing a number. We use the radical sign, and I haven't really talked about this. The radical sign is that square root sign. So it's a square root sign with an index of 3. So that's kind of like what we were doing before. So we have this 3 that says this is the cubed root, right? And then taking the cubed root of a perfect cubed will give you the length of one side. So if we do the cubed root of 27, what number multiplied by itself 3 times makes 27? That is 3. And so the side length is 3 units. Okay? So moving on with our note page, let's talk about non-perfect cubes. This is like if I took a cubed root and I got that decimal. We were doing that yesterday. So numbers whose cubed root do not result, so do not result in a whole number is what is called a non-perfect cube. So let's go ahead and we're doing the cubed root of 144. So remember, we want to go ahead and we want to take our calculator. We're going to do 3 second caret top 144. And let's go ahead and press enter. And if we put that in our calculator, we're going to get 5 point, oops, let's get my pen to work. So in our calculator, we get 5.2414, right? Keep on going. And let's round it to the nearest tenths. So that's 1 decimal place. So remember, I want the 2, so I look at the 4. So our answer is going to be 5.2. 2. And then let's try the cubed root of 9. Go ahead and try the cubed root of 9. And then we're going to go ahead and round it to the nearest tenth, right? So we're going to have 2.1. And then try it one more time. Do the cubed root of 60, round it to the nearest tenth. That number should be 3.9. All right, so let's try some of these with word problems. Jevin has a cubed-shaped aquarium with side lengths of 9 inches. What is the total volume of the aquarium? Go ahead and pause, answer that question, and then come back to me. All right, so number 1, if we're trying to find the volume and it has a side length of 9, we're going to say 9 times 9 times 9. Well, what is that? It's 729, and it will be inches cubed. Remember, volume is in inches cubed or units cubed. Marley is number 2. Marta is going to create a cubed-shaped flower box. If each side length of the box is 10 inches, how many cubic inches of dirt will Marley need? Go and figure that out. So again, we're going to go ahead and find the volume. So that is either 10 cubed or it's 10 times 10 times 10. If we do that, that is going to be 1,000. And it is going to be inches cubed because it's volume. All right, number 3. Raylon has a Rubik's Cube that contains 125 blocks. How many blocks are along the edges of the cube? So it has 125 blocks in there. We're just trying to find one side. So think about it for a second. So what do we go ahead and do? We're going to take the 125. We want just one side. So we're going to take the cubed root of 125. Then answer should be 5 blocks. Because opposite of cubed, because we already have the cube of it, opposite of cubed is cubed root. Let's look at number 4. All right, what 2 integers is the cubed root of 3 in between? So you want to take the cubed root of 20, and that is 2.7114, right? Or sorry, 144, and it's going to be in between 2 and 3. Or you can write it out, 2 and 3. All right, so number 5, this is kind of new. So I have, well, actually, no, we actually did this in our workbook yesterday. So notice I have the cube, so I have b cubed. I want to go ahead and solve that. What is opposite of a cube? That is cubed root. So grab your calculator, do the cubed root of 64, press enter, and your answer should be 4. And then number 6, we want to go ahead and simplify cubed root of 33 minus 2. And you can actually put that in your calculator. Just do cubed root, so 3 second caret top 33, and then minus 2. And if we do that, our answer should be 1.2. All right, so 1.2 should be our answer. All right, turn to the back side of your note page, and it should look like this. This is the second part of what we're doing. And this is like the equation kind of stuff, the computations of squares and cubes. So we are going to represent the solution to equations. So we're going to represent the solutions to equations using square roots and cubed roots. Okay, so we're going to look at number 1. So what we're really kind of remembering, like we did yesterday, is that squares and square roots are opposite of each other. Notice how I have a square root. That means I'm going to square to get rid of the square root. Okay, so I'm going to square both sides. The square and the square root cancel each other out. leaves x by himself, and then 4 squared is 16. So the answer to this equation, x equals 16. All right, so let's try another one. Notice how I have a negative on the outside of this one. That means I have -1 sitting on the outside. Let's go ahead and let's divide by -1 on both sides. Negative divided by negative makes it a positive, leaves the square root by itself. -12 divided by -1 is +12. And again, notice how we see a square root. So opposite of square root is square. So I'm going to square both sides. So the squares and the square roots cancel each other out, right? Leaves x by himself. And then 12 squared is 144. So our answer is 144. All right, so let's look at number 3. All right, why don't you go ahead and try number 3 yourself. So pause, go and try it, and then come back to me. All right, so we are going to go ahead and square both sides because I see a square root. Opposite of square root is square. So I'm going to have x equals, and then 2.1 squared, or 2.1 times 2.1 is 4.41. X equals 4.41. All right, so example number 4 is a little bit different. Notice how we have a square. Opposite of a square is square root. So I'm going to square root both sides. It's going to have x by himself. Squares and square roots cancel each other out. So what number multiplied by itself makes 49? We know that that is 7. But we also know that -7 also works. So the answer for this is 7 and -7. So the answer for example number 4 is 7 and -7, because -7 times -7 makes 49, and 7 times 7 also makes 49. And if you're having a hard time with that, go ahead and pause, rewind it, and go back through it. All right, so let's look at example number 5. Try this one. So go ahead and pause, try it, and then come back to me. So again, we're going to go ahead and take the square root, both sides. So we're going to have n equals 1.2, but because it's a square root, n is also going to equal -1.2. Because if I take 1.2 and I multiply by 1.2, I'm going to get 1.44. If I take -1.2, multiply by -1.2, I'm also going to get a positive 144. So again, with the square root, when we're taking the square root of something, it's both the positive and the negative. All right, so let's look at example number 6. So example number 6, all right, let's get the x squared stuff by itself. So the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is subtract off 2 from both sides. So then we're going to have x squared, 2's go away, 27 minus 2 is 25. And again, I want to get x by himself. I see a square, so that means I'm going to square root both sides. So then x is going to equal 5. Oh, but yeah, that's a square root. That means we're also going to have x equals a -5, because 5 times 5 is 25. -5 times -5 is also a positive 25. This is the reason why we have both of them. All right, so let's go ahead and let's look at example number 7. Ooh, this is a cubed root, right? We talked about that yesterday. Cubed root. What's the opposite of a cubed root? Well, that's cubing. Because cubed and cubed roots cancel each other out. It's going to leave n. And n to the, that should be cubed. N to the cubed. So that's 8, the 8 to the cube. That's 8 times 8 times 8. So that answer n is going to equal 512. All right, so once you try it yourself, here's example number 8. Go ahead and try it yourself. All right, so I see a cubed root. Opposite of cubed root is cubing. Cubed root and cubes cancel each other out. We're going to n. So remember, it's going to be 27 caret top 3. That's a big number, so it's going to be 19,683. All right, let's go ahead and try number 9. Oh, this is cubed. Oh, I have a cube, n cubed. I want to get n by himself. What's the opposite of a cube? That is cubed root. So notice how we're cube rooting each side. So that's going to be n is going to equal, well, what's the cubed root of 512? That is 8. This answer is only positive 8. Let's think about it. If I go 8 times 8 times 8, it's a positive 512. But if I do negative 8 times negative 8 times negative 8, this is negative 512. So when we have the cubed root, it's only one answer. Square root is 2 answers. Cubed root is 1 answer. All right, let's try example number 10. All right, so I see an n cubed. So what are we going to do? We're going to cube root it. So n is going to equal, what's cubed root of 125? That answer should be 5. So this is the computations with squares and square roots. So we're kind of going through this. So if I see a square, opposite is square root. If I see a square root, opposite is square. Cubed roots and cubes also go together. Okay? So this is just solving equations with either a square root, a square, a cubed root, or a cubed. So today's homework is Computations with Squares and Cubes worksheet. That is also in Canvas. So make sure you go ahead and put your answers into Canvas. And I hope you have a good day. Thanks. Bye.